Alright, so this is my Volcanic Lightsworn OTK deck. Obviously you can OTK by summoning 3 JDs and going for game. But you can set up the graveyard because you're milling the 3 volcanic counters. And if your opponent has a monster that's strong like a Judgment Dragon, you know, anything 2700 attack and up with 3 counters in the graveyard. You know, in a battle phase, for example, since it has 0 attack, you can attack and then your opponent will take the damage you took times 3, and that will be enough to deal over 8,000 points of damage. So those are your OTK options there, of course. You can summon monsters, blasters in here, so you can summon him from the grave. You can use Lila to bring back a Raiden, you know, stuff like that, and get enough monsters on the field to attack with, so you could swarm and OTK that way, of course. Alright, so we got JD, of course. If you have 4 or more Lightsworns with different names in your graveyard, you can special summon this card. You can pay 1,000 to destroy all other cards on the field except for himself, and this effect can be applied more than once per turn. And then during your end phase, you mill the top 4 cards of your deck. Simple enough. Lila. This will help you destroy any spell or trap card your opponent controls. Mainly stuff like Vanity's Emptiness, Kaiser Coliseum, so forth and so forth. You know, anything that could be problematic, she will help you get rid of it, just like MST can help you get rid of it. Technically, MST is actually taking up a spot because I'm interested in using Galaxy Cyclone when that comes out instead, because in case I mill it, just like it's obvious I can mill MST, Galaxy Cyclone can be used from the grave, so that's very useful. And you get more out of that than just plain MST it's by itself. So that's useful. So Lila is your monster way of getting rid of spells and traps. Raiko is another way, but he can also get rid of monsters, so you can get rid of anything you need to get rid of, so that's useful. During your end phase, you mill the top 3 cards off your deck. In order to use her effect, you target one of your opponent's spells and traps, switch her from a face-up attack position to face-up defense position, and if you do, pop that target. Raiden. He's the 4-star tuner of the deck. During your main phase, you can send the top 2 cards of your deck to the graveyard. If any of those monsters were Lightsworns, this card gains 200 attack until the end of turn, so he'll become a 1900 until the end of your opponent's next turn. And during your end phase, you mill the top 2 cards of your deck. These milling parts are effects, so they can't be skill drained, light imprison, so veilered, so you can negate the milling part. He's a tuner, so of course you can synchro. You got a couple options. Michael being one of your main options. Black Rose is another good one. If you combo Raiden with Lila, of course. Lumina. Lumina, she's a 3-star. Once per turn, you can discard a card from your hand, then target one level 4 or lower Lightsworn monster in your graveyard and special summon that target. You have to have a Lightsworn already in the graveyard to activate this effect. During each of your end phases, send the top 3 cards of your deck to the graveyard. So, more milling, that's always good. And of course, she can help you get Raiden back from the grave, and then you can activate his effect, mill 2 cards, then synchro into Michael or into Black Rose, whichever one you need. Michael, like I said, can destroy any card on the field, and then you send the top 3 cards of your deck to the graveyard. The sending the 3 cards is not a cost, it's an effect. So if somebody Phoenix chains him or Veiler him, you don't mill 3, obviously. Alright. Aaron, Lightsworn Monk. If this card attacks a defensive position monster before damage calculation, shuffle that monster into the deck. During your end phases, send the top 3 cards of your deck to the graveyard. Her effect does of attacking a monster defensive position and shuffling back into the deck does not target. And if a monster is face down in the defense position when she attacks, the monster will flip up, but it'll go back into the deck before damage calculation. So even if it has a high defense, you won't take no damage because this is before damage. And then if it has a flip effect, it'll apply after the monster was sent back to the deck. So if you attack a Raikou, Raikou will flip, go back in the deck, and then you get to pop a card on the field and mill 3 cards. As an example, you attack Shaddolls, they'll get their flip effects, so on and so on. You get the idea. Volcanic counter, of course, it's your extra win condition, burn. The closer you get your opponent down to 0, the better, right? So volcanic counter. While this card's in the graveyard and you take battle damage, banish this card. You don't get to choose that. That's an automatic thing you have to do. When you take battle damage, you banish it, and if there's any fire monster other than volcanic counters in the grave, you deal damage equal to the damage you took. All the volcanic counters effects do chain off of one attack. So if you take damage one time and you have multiple copies of counters in the grave, they will all go off at the same time by you taking that battle damage. They will all vanish, and if there's any fire monsters left in the grave, you only need one. Then they all will apply and deal your opponent damage equal to the damage you took for each copy. So if you have 3 and you took 1,000 damage, your opponent will take 3,000. You know, because there's 1,000 for each copy of volcanic counter. If you take 4,000, they take 12,000. You get the idea. Volcanic scatter shot. When it's sent to the graveyard, your opponent takes 500 points of damage. It has a secondary effect, which doesn't really matter to explain, but let's say it anyway. If this card is sent to the graveyard by the effect of a Blaze Accelerator card, you can send 2 volcanic scatter shots from your hand / or deck to the graveyard and destroy all monsters your opponent controls. This deck does not use Blaze Accelerator magazine or any of the Blaze Accelerator cards, so you won't get that secondary effect. But the main effect you want is the 500 damage one, because you're trying to burn your opponent. Plus he's a fire monster, so he'll help get volcanic counters effect to go off. Fencing Fire Ferret. Essentially, this is your out to a lot of problematic cards like Ophion, maybe Crimson Blader, things like that. Sorry. So you get the idea, because when this card is destroyed and sent to the graveyard, target one face-up monster your opponent controls, destroy that target, and if you do, inflict 500 damage to your opponent. Obviously, you're going to use this to kill things. They can be destroyed by card effects. It's a 1700, so it can run over a lot of things. It's fire, so it'll help you activate counter's effect. And that extra 500 burn damage is useful. Again, trying to reduce your opponent's life points to 0. You could say, why not use Fire Hand, Ice Hand? You can, that's up to you. That's player preference. I prefer Fencing Fire Ferret 1 because it's all I have. I don't have Ice Hand, Fire Hand. 2, I like the burn damage. It's been very useful. And I like other options. I don't want to have to take up 6 monster slots to do the effect of 1 monster, right? So Fencing Ferret does what I need to do, which is to get rid of a monster. So I only need 3 copies of it in the deck. Then we got Battle Fader. Obviously, gotta have hand traps, gotta have some way of defending yourself. Necro Gardener, obviously, to defend yourself. Yeah, its effect activates in the grave. You can banish it to negate an attack. Construction Train Signal Red. This will allow you to block an attack. Essentially, it blocks 2 attacks because the first attack that it blocks, because you special learn from your hand, and then it doesn't die from that battle. It doesn't die, so it'll still be there for if your opponent has a second monster to attack with. So it can essentially block 2 attacks, which is awesome. It has a unique ability where it forces the monster that you attacked with, your opponent attacked with, to go straight into damage calculation. So something like Aaron won't be able to apply its effect to send it back to the deck because we're in damage calculation, and her effect only applies before a damaged cow. So we bypass her effect and go straight into damaged cow. Nothing happens because can't be destroyed by battle, and it'll still be there for you to use it for exceed summoning or synchro summoning. So that's always good. Michael Merchant. I said Michael Merchant. I meant Magical Merchant, obviously. This is one of the quickest way to get counters to the graveyard, as well as scatter shots and MicroRecords and your Lightsworns, your JDs that we can use. Obviously, your monster reincarnations to add the JDs back to the hand. Hopefully, you already drew some, so that way you already have the advantage to drop multiple copies and go for game. So this definitely helps you run through the deck real quickly and get the counters active in the grave. MST, which will be replaced by Galaxy Cyclone, but for now, MST helps you get rid of stuff like Vanity's Emptiness, Kaiser Coliseum, Necro Valley, so forth and so forth. Anything that could be problematic. Monster Reincarnation obviously lets you grab anything from your graveyard to your hand. Let's say you milled your Battle Faders, you want to add that back to your hand, you can. You want to add your Lila back to your hand, or your JDs is your typical target for the card, but you could choose whatever you need when you need it. Charge to the Light Brigade. That obviously this helps you open up plays right quick, because you'll mill the top 3 cards of your deck, so your deck graveyard will have some cards in the grave to play with. Lets you grab a Lightsworn, something like Lila in case you need to get rid of back row, plus get some extra mills. You could get a Raikou if you need to pop a monster like Dark Law, Mass Hero Dark Law. Get your Raikou so you can get rid of Mass Hero Dark Law, because of course he would hurt your deck by preventing you from getting your mills off, getting all your good stuff in the grave. But a typical target I use for this is Lila, especially if I milled Lila by Charge's effect, or Lightsworn effect or whatnot, or Raiden. And then I try to go for what I call the God combo, or the God Hand combo, the God Hand combo, where I'm able to use a Lumina to bring back Lumina from the graveyard onto the field, then use that Lumina's effect to bring back Raiden from the graveyard, then use Raiden's effect to mill 2 cards off the top of my deck. This is all after you play Charge Light Brigade, because you'll play Charge Light Brigade, mill the top 3 cards of your deck to the graveyard. Then you add Raiden if you need Raiden for the combo, or Lumina if you need Lumina for the combo in case you already have Raiden. Hopefully by Charge's effect you mill some Lightsworns. Then you'll summon Lumina. You'll pitch a copy of Lumina from your hand, because the whole goal is to get 2 Lumina and Raiden on the field, obviously. So you get Lumina back onto the field, use her effect, send something else to the graveyard, get back Raiden. Good things to discard, of course, is Necro Gardenas, Scatter Shots, Counter, because they're meant to be in the grave, so you can use them. So you discard them, get Raiden onto the field, use effect mill 2. Then you could do this first turn. This could all happen first turn. It usually does. And then you end your turn, and then you'll end up milling 8 more cards. 2 for Raiden, 3 for each Lumina, so that's 6 plus 2, that's 8. By the end of the turn, you should have 2 cards in your hands, 2 Luminas on the field, Raiden on the field, and 14 cards in your graveyard. Add that all up, that's 19 cards out your deck. You should have a little bit over 21 cards left in your deck. I think it's 31. If you're playing a 40 card deck, it would be 21, but this is a 50 card deck, so that's 10 more cards. So you have 31 cards left in your deck. So 14, cards in the graveyard. That's a lot of cards sent to the graveyard off of one play, right? So that's what I call the God Hand, because you want to mill nearly half your deck, so that your deck can run. That we have all these options. It's almost like drawing 14 cards first turn, right? That's the way I look at it. Milling is drawing. That's my concept. Alright, two Necro faces, so you can recycle your battle faders if they banish by their effect, the Necro Gardeners if you use them, the counters when they're used. You could be able to recycle them. Of course, Blaster, you could discard it with a fire monster and destroy one card on the field, so that's good. It's kind of like having another MST or a Raikou, whichever way you want to look at it. Then, of course, it's a nice 2800 beater, so you can banish, you know, fencing ferrets or scatter shots. To summon them, you can even banish JD because he's a dragon, or if you synchro into Black Rose, you can banish that. Michael's also a dragon, you can banish that, so you get the idea. You have ways to summon him, attack with him, and then because he banishes these cards, when you summon Necro Face, you'll just add them back into the deck, so that way it'll prevent you from decking out, plus you get to reuse all your good stuff. Glow Bulb is good for helping you mill. If it's in a graveyard, mill the top card of your deck. Special summon it. Then it's a tuner, so you can synchro with anything you have on your side field that you want. You can synchro with Bladder, go into Hot Red Dragon Archfiend. It's a good option for getting rid of all your opponent's monsters. Then we got Cataster, good against Dexter or Not Dark attribute. In case you go up against a Lightsworn mirror match, this is a good card to use to take down something strong like a JD or something like that, and not run into an Honest. Right? You don't want to run into an Honest. Courier Guardian, good for stealing stuff, especially if in a mirror match you can steal your opponent's Lightsworns and get mills off. Black Rose helps you clear the field. It's basically your secondary JD. Hot Red clears your opponent's monsters and you can still attack with it. That's awesome. A typical play to make him is use Battle Fader to survive your opponent trying to OTK you. Right? Then it'll be your turn. You'll summon Lumina, discard a card, bring back Raiden. Then you can use Raiden's effect if you want, mill 2 more cards. Then Synchro, using Battle Fader, Raiden, and Lumina. And then create Hot Red. Then use Red's effect, clear your opponent's monsters, and then attack him. Then Leo, Keeper of the Sacred Trees. Good card. You can make him with the God Hand combo, because 2 Luminas, that's 6 stars right there, plus a rating. That's 10, so you can go into a nice 3100. Especially if you don't want to mill. You can just make him, and now you don't have to worry about milling during the end phase. Plus, he can't be targeted by opponent's card effect except during main phase 2. And only during your main phase 2. So that's awesome. Star Eater, it can be made with Raiden and Blaster. It can be made a couple other ways, but that's the typical way you'll make him. He's 32. His summon can't be negated, and when he attacks, he's not affected by spells, traps, and monster effects. Slacker Magician, that's my girl. I typically like using, I use a Battle Fader to survive an attack. Then my turn, summon a monster. Let's say Magical Merchant, overlay, it makes Slacker Magician. Stall for a little bit longer. Plus, with the fact that I use Battle Fader as XYZ material when Slacker is defeated, like destroyed by battle card effect, Battle Fader will go to the graveyard instead of going out of play, so I could always use Monster Reincarnation, add it back to my hand, and reuse it. So that's something I like to do. Of course, Slacker Magician once per turn can't be destroyed by battle. She has 2100 defense, so that's really good. And then she would be the target of a spell, trap, or monster effect. You get detach material from her and negate and destroy the card that targeted her. She's good against Big Eye, Dracosac, Michael. Okay, someone use Michael, BLS, so forth and so forth. She's good against stuff like that. Sky Blaster. It would work against 101, but since she's in the fence, it's pointless, right? she'll be in defense, so 1-on-1 won't be able to touch her. But if she was in attack, she can use her effect against 1-on-1. Zen Main, another defensive card, plus it helps you pop back row or anything you want to get rid of. Plus it's a fire monster, so it'll help you activate Volcanic counters effect. Other card helps you pop set cards, help you pop face down monsters, or spells and traps, which is typically what you want to use it for. So you can clear the field of any problematic traps, so that when you try to go for game, they can't stop you with like a Mirror Force or something, or a D Prison. Nightmare Shark, great for, you know, just getting that big 2,000 points of damage right off the bat in the beginning of the duel, or late game, ending the duel by just attacking your opponent and finish them off. So that's great. Library will help you recycle any of your remove from play monsters. The large majority of the monsters in your deck obviously are level 4 and lower, except for Blaster and JD. But everything else you can bring back, especially your Lightsworn, so you can keep milling. Necrogarna is definitely a good option to bring back, so that we can keep defending yourself. Counters is also good, so that we can, when you take damage, your opponent takes damage. And the main points for your opponent to life points hit to 0. Exciton Knight. It's good when you have Lightsworns you don't want to mill with, but plus also you want to clear the field, especially if you plan to OTK next turn. Exciton's great for that. Heliopolis, in case you don't want to mill from the JDs. After you summon and attack with them, you can go main phase 2 overlay and make Heliopolis if you want. I pick Heliopolis mainly because it's a dragon, and I have a Heliopolis. But you can, of course, use Felgrand. He's great defensively, because after you attack with 2 JDs, you overlay and make Felgrand. You don't have to worry about your opponent making a comeback with a Dark Hole. Especially if you know he has a Dark Hole or Regeki or something like that, right? You want to make sure that you still have field presence. So Felgrand is good for that. It's also good if your opponent manages to get a Mirror Force or something, just anything in general. You can use Felgrand. I recommend Felgrand, but I personally am using Heliopolis at this point. Plus Heliopolis' effect does not target. So in case there's something I need to destroy, that normally can't be destroyed. Not that can't be destroyed, but like something happens where I need Heliopolis. Maybe something JD can't mess with, but Heliopolis can, I guess. But mainly it's just so I don't have to mill for JD. I rarely go into Heliopolis. Then 2 Mycos, so I can do the Myco loop, because I can use 1 Myco to return the other Myco back into the deck and recycle my Lightsworns, so I don't deck out. Plus getting life is useful, especially when you're paying thousands here and there for JDs and Myco's effects, when you're taking battle damage for Volcanic counters effects. So you want to make sure you can recover most of your life points. And of course, during your end phase, you mill the top 3 cards of the deck. You can pay 1,000 life points to banish 1 card your opponent controls. And that's it, the deck profile.